What is the pathogen which was smuggled? Fusarium graminearum is the pathogen. Remember, it is a fungus. So what is this agro-terrorism? We need to understand this term. Sir, I've understood the definition, but I want to differentiate this term agro-terrorism from other variants. And I also want to understand whether agro-terrorism as a tactic, is it resorted to by different countries or non-state actors? Apart from that, there has to be a dedicated law for biosecurity in India. In fact, there was one present in 2013 also, Agriculture Biosecurity Bill 2013, which was shelved eventually. Hello and welcome to Rahulverse. In this video lecture, we are going to comprehensively understand the topic of agro-terrorism. Right now, you're thinking, so why are we discussing about agro-terrorism now? Because recently, in the United States of America, 2 Chinese researchers have been arrested for agro-terrorism. They have been charged with smuggling a very dangerous and a potent plant pathogen, that is Fusarium graminearum. At the heart of this entire discussion is the agro-terrorism topic, because these researchers had smuggled a plant pathogen which has the capability of devastating many cereal crops in the United States of America. That's the news because of which we are discussing. So what will be the plan of our discussion in this video? We'll first talk about the news itself, then we'll move towards understanding what is the meaning of agro-terrorism. We'll differentiate agro-terrorism from the other forms of bioterrorism and food terrorism. We'll also understand what makes agro-terrorism very dangerous. In the second half of the discussion, we will talk about impact on India, or why India should be ready for any agro-terrorism based threats, because India is highly vulnerable. What makes India vulnerable? What are the steps or what are the institutions that we have for protecting ourselves from these threats, and what should be done? At the end of the discussion, you will also get a mains practice question for your UPSC civil service examination. So let's begin our discussion. As I told you, recently 2 Chinese researchers have been charged with agro-terrorism. One of them is Yuqing Jian and the other one is Zunyong Liu. They have been charged with agro-terrorism because they smuggled a very potent fungus, Fusarium graminearum. One of them has been arrested, and both of them, they work for University of Michigan. They are researching there. One of them has been arrested. The other one is apparently in China. That is, Jian's boyfriend Liu is in China and he is yet to be arrested. So this is the news because of which agro-terrorism has again become cynosure of discussion. Before we move into understanding what is agro-terrorism, let me first tell you about the pathogen itself, because there can be multiple choice questions connected to these as well. What is the pathogen which was smuggled? Fusarium graminearum is the pathogen. Remember, it is a fungus. And mainly it is a plant pathogen. That means it gives diseases to the plant. The next question is, sir, does it harm humans directly? Not directly, but if you consume the food or if you consume the infested grains, then there might be problems in humans and animals both. Please remember this particular point. Again, I'm repeating, Fusarium graminearum is a fungus. This fungus, it not just decimates the yield, but it also produces a vomitoxin. That's what I told you. If you consume these grains, you do understand there are many cereals like wheat, barley, maize, rice. These are all staple foods that we consume. So first of all, the yield would be lowered because it gives wheat blight like this. And if we consume these cereals or these grains, then it leads to creation of vomitoxin, which is called as deoxynivalenol, and this can lead to problems in humans as well as animals. For humans, for human consumption, the presence of this toxin should be less than 1 ppm, one part per million, and for animal consumption it should be less than 5 ppm. And wherever you find Fusarium graminearum infestation, the presence of these chemicals is higher, which is very dangerous. All right. Now, question comes, sir, is this a new strain? Is it something like a new virus or a new fungus or a new pathogen? No, it is nothing new. First of all, you need to realize it is nothing new. Then why so much fuss about this particular fungus? Remember, Fusarium graminearum, it exists in the United States already. However, when you bring any new strain, it is like an exotic species or an exotic variant which might be more virulent, and that is what is the argument of US Food Administration. They say that unauthorized import of these strains can be very dangerous, as some of the variants can be highly virulent, they can be pesticide resistant, and depending on the new climates, they may gain new traits, which makes them highly dangerous. Bringing them without proper biosafety measures can be a problem to the entire country's food security, because the disease can spread very, very fast. According to United States Department of Agriculture, Fusarium graminearum, it causes about $1 billion worth loss annually. And these new strains can be more challenging, not just in terms of yield, but if livestock consume it, if humans consume it, it leads to problems from the vomitoxin. It creates problems like vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, fever, etc. So this strain can be very dangerous. All right. Now the question comes, so what is this agro-terrorism? We need to understand this term. All right. Agro-terrorism, and we need to differentiate it from the other variants as well. Now, what is agro-terrorism? Let me give you the plain definition. Agro-terrorism is the intentional use of biological agents or biological pathogens. I am highlighting a term here, intentional. Okay, all of us need to focus on this. Agro-terrorism is the intentional use of biological agents such as plant pathogens or pests or some sort of contaminants which impact the agriculture infrastructure of a country. It may lead to lower yields, it may lead to spread of a disease, it may lead to, again, agriculture and allied activities, diseases of livestock, etc. Anything can come under this definition. I'm highlighting intentional. Why? Because there is always a possibility of natural outbreaks in agriculture. Is it not? There is a possibility, but an agro-terrorism based spread and natural outbreak, they are quite different. Generally, agro-terrorism based intentional exposure, it leads to widespread disease in a very, very short time. Natural outbreak has its own transmission characteristics which are different. That is where we need to differentiate between these two. Now, next question comes. Sir, I have understood the definition, but I want to differentiate this term agro-terrorism from other variants. And I also want to understand whether agro-terrorism as a tactic, is it resorted to by different countries or non-state actors? Yes, there are many incidences. First, what is the meaning of terrorism? Again, there is no standard definition of terrorism. India is still fighting for the CCIT, Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. But when you define terrorism, what is the meaning? Terrorism is the use of violence or fear to instill that fear in public to achieve certain targets. That target may be ideological, that target may be anything. Now, when you look at, say, country-wise targets, why do countries or non-state actors resort to some sort of terrorism? They want to gain some upper hand. Now, in this case, if China is resorting to agro-terrorism, it may be because of competition with the great power, that is United States of America. It wants to hamper the agriculture productivity so that there can be a trade deal. These are some of the ideas. Okay, so terrorism. Now, under terrorism, you have subcategories like bioterrorism. Now, under the bioterrorism, we can discuss agro-terrorism. What is bioterrorism? Bioterrorism refers to use of terror tactics, use of violence or use of means to instill fear in humans, in human population. This is classically use of biological weapons. And we have seen bioterrorism or biological weapons used by many countries. Biological weapons, or I can say even agro-terrorism or food terrorism, it has been used by many people. There are so many instances. There have been examples. History is replete with ideas. It started way back in 1660 BC. You can talk about Barbarossa, you can talk about Napoleon, you can talk about many countries. During the modern times, we can give example of Germany resorting to bioterrorism. Germany during the World War I, World War II, both. Not just Germany, even from the Allied forces. And it was also said that in 1945, United States of America was apparently going to use a bioweapon before, basically to make Japanese surrender, but later they used the atomic weapons, atomic bomb in 1945. So bioterrorism is the use of violence tactic, use of fear tactics on humans. Now, a subcategory of that is food terrorism. Now, this may be towards the livestock or even towards the humans. Food terrorism has also been resorted to many a times. You have many examples where food terrorism has been resorted to or at least threatened by different parties. Say, for instance, in 1990s, the Palestinian terror groups, they had poisoned citrus fruits which were exported from Israel to USA and European countries. LTT in Sri Lanka had warned or threatened that the tea which would be exported from Sri Lanka, it would be laced with cyanide and it would be exported to the Western countries. That's the example of food terrorism. Now, a subcategory would be the agro-terrorism. Now, agro-terrorism is predominantly directed towards the agricultural infrastructure. When I say agricultural, it includes agriculture and allied activities. It may be impact on certain crop, a disease spread through certain crop, a disease spread through livestock, or any agricultural allied activities. There have been many instances of this. In fact, when we talk about today's discussion, agro-terrorism, China comes at the center of this discussion because there have been many allegations on the Chinese. In 2018, the African swine flu, it originated from China, although China categorically denies all these allegations of agro-terrorism. In 2020, there was a seed packet scandal. There were many seeds which reached European countries and the Western countries, and the address was from Chinese. And when they tested it, there was nothing dangerous in it. Bioterrorism has been used by many countries. Bacillus anthracis after 2001, we have seen many examples of that. But recent examples, even the locust swarms which happened in India in 2020, 2021, there are many reports which also talk about agro-terrorism connected to it. But again, China categorically denies all these things, right? But what makes agro-terrorism so interesting, or I would say so easy, the ease with which any player or any actor can carry out this attack. It may be a state actor, it may be a non-state actor. See, carrying out agro-terrorist attack, it's quite easy because it is low cost. Now, you saw the example of two researchers. One of the researchers, the boyfriend, he carried the pathogen Fusarium graminearum in the pocket. There are 4 packets and those strains are carried pretty easily, right? It's a low cost attack, and it is very difficult to detect, and it can lead to far-reaching consequences and damage. It may impact the food security, the nutrition security of entire region or entire country. Unlike any military or financial attack that happens, when you talk about agro-terror attack, it attacks the food processing plants, which might disrupt the food supply. Again, wider population can be impacted by that. Biological attacks on crops and livestock, they generally go undetected for weeks together, for many days, and whoever has attacked, they can escape also very easily. Apart from that, agro-terrorism, it becomes a very potent weapon for any actor to destabilize the rival nation. Whatever their targets may be, it may not be a complete destruction of a crop, but to gain some sort of economic upper hand, that might be one of the intentions. That makes agro-terrorism very, very dangerous. The ease with which one can carry out the attack, and there is always plausible deniability with these, isn't it? So that is all about agro-terrorism. Now question comes, sir, I am not bothered too much about what's happening elsewhere, but I am more concerned about what is happening in India. So why India is so vulnerable, or what makes India vulnerable? See, first of all, India is still an agrarian country. 17% of India's GDP contribution comes from the agriculture sector. More than 50% of the population is still dependent on agriculture. That makes India and Indians vulnerable to agro-terrorism. Add to it, when you look at the Indian map, there are, I would say, 2 adversaries, Pakistan, China, and the areas, the food producing areas in India, like Punjab, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, and some neighboring states to these states, like Haryana and UP, which are again major food producing states. I'm not telling the northern belt, it produces a lot of wheat and rice, and any threat here would be a threat to food security of India, isn't it? So India would be vulnerable to any sort of agro-terror attack. Add to it, there is more vulnerability. As I told you, there is concentrated farming practices and areas in India, predominantly Punjab, Haryana, Eastern UP belt, Rajasthan, right? These areas, again, the rice belt towards West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, the rice belt also. Increased susceptibility to livestock disease. Again, if it is some sort of contagious disease, it can spread very, very quickly. We have insufficient farm-related food security and surveillance in India, insufficient or passive disease reporting systems that we have, and we also have eternal shortage of personnel. There is always a shortage or lack of agri experts and veterinarians in India, and also diagnostic centers in our country, which all makes us more and more vulnerable. Now question comes, sir, has India seen any agro-terrorism? There are some instances we can connect with agro-terrorism. There is a very interesting paper which has been published by DRDO, which talks about the threats of agro-terrorism to India, which talks about two important incidences in 2015 and 2016. Even in 2020, the locust attack or the locust swarm, which we saw in the northwestern part of our country, it can be, or it may be attributed, according to some literatures, to possible agro-terrorism. But one of the examples, I wouldn't call it agro-terrorism per se, but uh, whenever we talk about grass, right, we talk about Parthenium. Do you know how Parthenium reached India? I'm not telling that is agro-terrorism, but there is a very interesting story with it, that in 1950, 1951, the Parthenium seeds came with wheat, which was sent from United States to India, right? And even today we see that Parthenium, it is a weed which has created problem all over India, and colloquially it's also called Congress grass, right? Again, I cannot say Parthenium itself was agro-terrorist attack, but it happens with many exotic species. When they enter into a new area, they spread very rapidly and they impact other crops. We have seen that with Parthenium. But in recent times, as I cited the DRDO paper, it highlights two incidences. In 2015, cotton leaf curl virus in Punjab, there was a severe infestation of cotton leaf curl virus, which impacted almost 650 million worth crop in India. These virus strains were experimented in Pakistan, in Multan and in Bihari in Pakistan. These strains were not found in India initially, but later on we saw that in India as well. A similar kind of incident also happened in 2016, where wheat blast fungus was seen. The MOPT fungus was seen. It was detected in two West Bengal districts. Before that, there was an outbreak in Bangladesh. The government swiftly resorted to banning of wheat cultivation in these affected districts for 3 years. It also banned wheat cultivation within 5 kilometer area of Bangladesh border. So some instances of agro-terrorism can be spoken of. As I mentioned, the locust attack is also in some literature attributed to the agro-terrorist attack. But again, as I told you, there is always a plausible deniability for the other player. Right? Now, question comes, sir, how can we control it? How can we be ready for this? At the international level, I'd say that there is no international convention or a protocol which dedicatedly deals with agro-terrorism. Yes, we have some international conventions or some treaties. Like globally, there are SPS regulations, that is sanitary and phytosanitary regulations, which come under the CBD, Convention on Biodiversity, since 1992. We have Biological Weapons Convention, which deals with biological weapons, stops the stockpiling of biological weapons. Yes, there have been many instances of countries may be resorting to stockpiling of biological weapons, right? Say China, Syria, North Korea, some of the examples can be given. There is International Plant Protection Convention from 1951. Under this FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, it aims to prevent introduction and spread of plant pests across the border. There is also World Organization for Animal Health, which talks about standards of animal health. But again, there is no specific treaty or a convention which governs or which deals with agro-terrorism per se. When we talk about India, we have certain institutional setup and we also have certain measures in place. We have National Disaster Management Authority, we have National Biodiversity Authority, we have Integrated Disease Surveillance Program, plant and animal quarantine programs are there, National Animal Disease Reporting System is there, we have a strong customs and border surveillance. Apart from that, under the Biological Diversity Act, we also have stringent sanitary and phytosanitary measures. But despite this, India is still vulnerable to these threats. Right? Now, question is, sir, what can we do? What can we do, or how can we prepare ourselves? What are the suggestions that we can give in our mains answer writing? See, some of the suggestions can be: We do need a national agro biosecurity policy. Apart from that, there has to be a dedicated law for biosecurity in India. In fact, there was one present in 2013 also, Agriculture Biosecurity Bill 2013, which was shelved eventually. So maybe this can be rethought of, or a new agriculture biosecurity bill can be brought. We need to train personnel at customs, ports, and labs, especially for any sort of biological threat. PPP can be resorted to, or PPP can be pushed with agricultural tech startups to keep continuous pathogen surveillance. We need to strengthen plant health monitoring using the new technology. We can talk about artificial intelligence, satellite imagery. The fungus itself, it gives blight, so a color change in the crop can be detected quickly, and those crops or that particular variant can be quarantined. Incorporate agro-terrorism under India's counter-terrorism strategies and doctrines. Right now, this is something which is missing in our doctrines. Yes, we talk about cyber capabilities, we talk about different doctrines, post-Operation Sindoor, zero tolerance to terrorism, zero tolerance to agro-terrorism should also be there. Apart from that, international collaboration is something which is the need in the agrobiotech sector. As I told you, we have certain avenues here, we have certain international conventions and protocols, but more and more international collaboration is needed, because it's about spread of these pathogens or pests across the board. So if it's a global issue, then we do need global solutions and global collaboration for such dangers of agro-terrorism. All right, so I hope you have gotten a good idea about what is the meaning of agro-terrorism and how India is quite vulnerable to threats of agro-terrorism and how we should be ready. To conclude our discussion, let me give you a practice question. Agro-terrorism poses a significant threat to national food security and economic stability in India. Discuss the nature of agro-terrorism, its potential impact on India, and suggest measures that India should adopt to strengthen its preparedness against such threats. You have to attempt this in 250 words, right? So that ends our discussion. Thank you for watching this video. Before that, let me remind you, if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on these avenues. This is my Instagram ID. You can directly message me. This is my number also. And for all the UPSC civil services aspirants, you can always check out this Telegram channel where I host interesting content. The entire PDF of this discussion would also be hosted on the same Telegram channel. All right, so that's it in this particular discussion. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and share about the channel. Let's grow together. Till we meet again, stay safe and stick to your schedule. Jai Hind.